cloud. And we still have Mindy, right? Mindy, you? Yep, okay. I lost you in the crowd here. All right, well, good morning, everyone. Christy Haley Stover, Platinum Resource Group, and super excited to bring you, again, a wonderful speaker and my favorite sidekick on doing boot camp for Northern California. He's my San Francisco, San Jose boot camp buddy. And so super excited to have you, Grant. And so I want to make sure people know my team. And so we'll, oops. Okay, dinging. So Cindy, why don't you say hi to everyone? Cindy Whitaker.
Oh, good morning, everybody. It is so wonderful to see so many of you. I love these. It's so much better than 35 people crammed in our conference room. This is fabulous. So great to see all of you. Some of you I haven't seen for a while. Hope you're all safe and healthy.
And Josh.
Good morning, everyone. I'm the new one on the team. I see some of you that are familiar from other boot camps. So hello. So yeah, happy Friday, and we'll talk soon, I'm sure.
Okay, Anita Davis.
Hi, good morning, everyone. It's so good to see everybody virtually, and I can't wait till we all can connect again and say hello in person and have a cocktail. But for now, this will do. Hi, good morning.
We're looking forward, and of course, Mindy Ankrum.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, so we're looking forward to our boot camp reunions again, and both in Northern California and Southern California. We've had really great boot camps in the past, and I think we're all itching to drink cocktails and get together again, and so looking forward to that. So I'm going to go ahead and mute some folks. And hang on. Mute all. Yes, okay. And oops. Grant, where did you go? Okay, I'm gonna unmute you. All right, so welcome everyone. Happy Friday before Memorial Day weekend. And I'm very excited to have you see Grant Parr again and hear what he has to say. And Grant is back by popular demand. He spoke about a month ago, and we had so many great things, great feedback, and people were wanting more and more and more. And so I asked him if he would do it again, and he graciously accepted, which is who Grant Parr is. And for those of you who didn't have an opportunity to hear him the last time, and who may not know who Grant is a mental performance coach, and he's been also a co-facilitator of our executive boot camp in the Bay Area, in San Jose and San Francisco. And Grant has a really interesting story, and he's an author of a book called Next One Up Mindset. And so when we send out the link to the recording, we'll send out the link to his book as well. And Grant's story is really interesting, and I'm always fascinated to learn additional tidbits about his story and his journey. And Grant started out as an athlete, and then became a sales executive, and then decided to get into mental performance coaching. And it was really, he's had, adversity in his life, and he's really found the need to really dive into how we control what we can control, and everything from hip replacements, the death of his father, and so many things that have led Grant to this point. And so he continues to add value to people, and he's the one person that makes me feel good that I'm a corporate athlete. I may not be a sports athlete, but I'm a corporate athlete. So Grant speaks to sports athletes and corporate athletes, and helps us really tap into all that we have already and leverage that even more. So with that, Grant, I'm going to hand it over to you.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. I'm really excited to share my thoughts and share a topic or a subject that I'm not only did I have to go through learning how to control the uncontrollable, but I think we all are faced with it every day. So hopefully I can add a lot of value, or I can have you think differently in the moment when you're challenged with something, or when you start to see that you're actually focusing on something that you have no control of. So let me share my screen here real quick. All right. All right, ready to go? All right, isn't that fitting? That tornado trapped? Sometimes it looks like we can be that tornado. So I thought it was very fitting when I saw that. It resonated with me. But let me, I know that Christy shared with you a little bit about my background. I've been a mental performance coach for the last 5 to 6 years. I've found my passion later in life. There is a story that had led me up to this moment to be a mental performance coach, and I'll give you the cliff notes of the story. But I had a career-ending injury that to my left hip. It left me handicapped for 4 years. I couldn't walk, couldn't clip my toenails, couldn't tie my shoes for almost 4 years, and I spent about 2 decades literally letting all the uncontrollables control me. And I got to a point in my life when I got my body back. After my second surgery on my hip, I started to realize that I could put myself back into control. And I was in a position where I get to redesign Grant. I don't have to be this old Grant, which I was yearning for a long time. So I empowered myself, and I learned all these different techniques and strategies to put myself back into the present to actually gain control. So hopefully today I can share with you some of the things that I went through, and then what I teach my clients. And also being in sales, being in the corporate America, if you will, for the last 2 decades, I learned so much about, as I reflect on the things that I let control me. So the theme today is about how we get back into control, not about actually being attached to controlling things, but to actually align our thoughts and our emotions so we can actually be the best version of ourselves in the moment and build awareness. So you're going to hear a lot about breathing, awareness, getting back into where your feet are. So we're going to do a lot of cool stuff today. You're going to be writing stuff down. I'm actually going to walk you through breathing exercises. So it's going to be pretty interactive. And we're going to watch actually a really cool video from Brene Brown at the end about vulnerability. Also, if you're interested in podcasts, I have a 90% Mental podcast where I talk to athletes and coaches and sporting executives, sports psychologists about the mental game. And also, as Christy brought up my book, The Next One Up Mindset, there's a few things that I'll bring up today that I talk about in my book about controlling the uncontrollable. So it brings me back to, as I was putting all my thoughts together for all of you today, it brought me back to the very beginning of my career. So I'm starting my career when I was like 24, 25 years old. So this is about a time where I'm like 26, 27. I'm working for a staffing company, one of the largest in the world, $4 billion in revenue. And I'm thriving. I'm loving this company. I see myself at a young age retiring with this company. And I'm making the most money. I'm getting promoted quick. I mean, everything is perfect. The very first 3 or 4 years have been great. Well, it was great because we were going through the boom in 2000. I think it was great for everyone for a short time. And what had happened when the economy fell, there was a lot of change, a lot of things that I had no control of. I didn't have control of my director, who I did one of my mentors as of today, him getting transferred to another office, getting a new director that I did not like at all, but he loved me, and he started to really change the culture of the office. He started to fire a lot of great people. I didn't understand his thought process. We were closing down our office. We were moving it to San Francisco. So all this change, all these uncontrollables I had no control of, I started to let it bother me. I started getting plugged into the emotional side of all these things that were out of my control. So what I did in that moment, I started to really, really push him away and push everything away, started getting very emotional, and I ended up leaving. What was very interesting is that all the people that stayed, all the salespeople that stayed and transferred to San Francisco, within about a year, every single one of them were making so much money. They were getting promoted. They were getting transferred to other offices, and they were thriving, where I was struggling, going from company to company in these startup modes, and I wasn't making any money. So it brings me back to that moment, like, what could I have done differently? What could I have really understood what I could control and what I couldn't control? Because all the things that I was focusing on were the things that were out of my control. I wasn't focusing on my attitude and my energy. I wasn't focusing about getting in my breath. I wasn't focusing on being a teammate and being a team player. It became all about me. It was me before we. And so when I look back at that, what if I would have done things differently? You know, I don't want to get, stuck in this what if, but sometimes it's a good opportunity to reflect. And when I look at that moment, my life could have completely changed if I would have been a little more patient, if I would have actually put on a different lens or looked at the whole situation with different optics. So, but it's okay. I'm glad my journey, I'm glad with all the adversities that I went through. I'm glad I went through all of that, because now I get to teach people. I get to teach people to make sure that they don't do what I did. So, so today it's going to be, again, it's going to be a lot of, it's going to be very interactive. I'm going to share a lot of stuff. There's going to be a lot of content. The first couple 10 minutes or so, there's going to be a lot of stuff that I'm going to be throwing to you. So please write, be vulnerable with yourself, do some inner reflection as I'm speaking, because I think there's going to be some stuff that's going to provoke some thought here. So today, this is what we're going to go over today. This is our agenda and takeaways. We're going to learn how to eliminate distractions so you can become your most empowered self. We're going to understand your fear and learn to lean into it. Now, I underline your, because nobody can make you fearful unless you are fearful. And we're going to talk a little bit about that, how you can own your own fear and how you can lean into it and process through your fear. And if anybody knows me, and Christy can attest, is that I'm all about breath. So we're going to do a lot of breath work today. So I'm going to ask you to be vulnerable, to do some breathing and some meditation. So we're going to learn how to access your breath in the moment so you can have it better now. And then we're going to talk about ageism in the workplace. This is something that's real, but it's one of those things that we can't control. So I'm going to teach you how to, when it shows up in the moment, or when you start reflecting that there is some ageism that you're going through, that you can actually access a process so you can actually move through that experience of ageism. And then vulnerability, which I think this is just one of those, we hear this word a lot, and I want to push vulnerability like no other. I understand it can be scary, but every time that you allow yourself to be vulnerable and you can get the lessons from being vulnerable, I always say that victory goes to the vulnerable. So with that being said, let's start with this. Let's start with self-awareness. If we want to change a behavior, if we want anything to happen the way we want it to happen, we have to build self-awareness. And we get distracted so much every day, and especially with these little devices, we get distracted all the time. So what I'm going to ask you to do is to really, first thing is to start really focusing on your self-awareness. And there's some things that we can actually focus on that's going to enhance our self-awareness. But I thought, as I was doing some research on self-awareness, I thought this was a really cool, really poignant stat, if you will. So in the workplace, 83% of the people high in self-awareness are top performers, and just 2% of the bottom performers are high in self-awareness. So why? Why is that? Well, when you are self-aware, you are more likely to pursue the right opportunities, put your strengths to work, and perhaps importantly, keep your emotions from holding you back. And that's the goal right now, is that I want us to understand what our strengths are. What are our strengths? What can we control in the moment? And how can we know in the moment to plug into the emotional sockets? There are some emotional sockets that are good, like joy. Like, who doesn't want to be joyful? How can we tap into our joy in the moment during pressure or stress? It's very hard. I call it the shift, but we have to practice this. We have to practice our building our self-awareness, or we can actually plug into the socket of negativity, self-doubt, and that paralyzes. That actually stops us. It's very hard for us to move forward, and also doesn't allow us to make good decisions in the moment. So how do we build this awareness? Well, here's coming from a mental performance standpoint. If you truly want to be aware of what your surroundings and things that are happening, I truly want us to understand our body, because we're our whole body, our mind, our spirit, our heart, our soul, everything, we're making this decision together. So how do we build this self-awareness in our body? Well, there's many ways to do this, but I'm going to ask you, we're going to do a little quick exercise here, which is called a body scan, right? Well, we're dealing with a lot of stress. We're dealing with a distraction. We're dealing with things that it seems like there's a lot of moving parts that are out of our control. I want us to really, truly get grounded into where our 2 feet are. So you're going to be hearing a lot from me today to talk about that, being where our feet are. So how do we do that? We do a body scan, okay? So the body scan is something where you connect it with your breath and you work energy in parts of your body all the way down to your feet. You can start from your feet up to your face, but I like to right now, since we're locking into this session with me, I want us to start with our face to our shoulders, to our stomach, to our legs, to our feet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask anybody that wants to walk or join me with this, you're truly going to understand how to actually get into your body, build the awareness inside your body, right? So on the count of 3, I'm just going to ask you to take a deep breath in and just focus on your breath. Just focus on your breath. So we're going to do a lot of breath work today. So I don't know if you guys are ready for this, but I'm going to get you very present going into this long weekend. So on the count of 3, I'm just going to have you take a deep breath in and then just focus on your breath. And then I'm going to walk you through this small, short, easy process to build more awareness in your body. Okay. All right. 1, 2, 3. Take a deep breath in. Hold and release. And just follow your breath. Notice your breath. Just get relaxed. Be right here, right now. Focus on your breath. Just feel the air come through your nose, out your mouth, and be right here. Right here, right now. Feel your face. You can move your face a little bit. Just bring awareness to your face, the energy of your face. Keep with your breath. Focus on your breath. And move that energy down to your shoulders. Just move your shoulders a little bit. Sometimes it's good to move it so you can actually really feel where that energy is. Keep focusing on your breath. And then down to your stomach. And gently feel your stomach going in and out. Just focus on the awareness. Right now, we're focusing on how we need to be more aware of our body. Focus on your breath. Move that energy down to your legs. Feel the chair that you're sitting in, under your legs, on your back. Just be with your breath. Be right here. And then move that energy all the way down to your feet. Move your toes a little bit, bring awareness there. Keep focusing on your breath. And just feel your body. This is the most alive you're going to be right now. We're so present. We're not thinking about the future or the past. We're right here. Just feel your body. Start practicing where that awareness is, what you're feeling, what you're not feeling. Just be with your breath and then slowly come back to the present when you feel comfortable. And just start reflecting on that experience. So this is something we can do every single day. It doesn't have to be that long. It could be longer. It could be 30 seconds. But the more that we're actually dropping into ourself, that's self-awareness. Now that we are locked in, now when things are coming at us physically and emotionally, we're more prepared because we're in our body. And that's really important for us to understand our body, because we're moving all parts when we're making decisions. All right. I think this pitch is really poignant because I think this happens to us every day, right? Where everything's pulling at us. We got time, we got calendars. We also have a glass of wine there for happy hour. So there's a lot of things that pull at us. And when you think about distractions, again, these are things that can pull us out of the moment, out of the present moment. And when you think about 2 decades ago, in the year 2000, our attention span was 12 seconds. So after 12 seconds, generally speaking, there would be something that would pull us away, that would we'd get out of our present moment. Now in 2020, it's 6 seconds. And there's many reasons with technology, access to more content. So we get really distracted really quick. So if we know that now, we know that in 2020, that our attention span is so short, we have to build awareness. We have to be where our feet are. Because if we're not, then how can we be present in the moment when we're thinking about the future or in the past? You can't be where your feet are when you start thinking about the future or the past. And I love this. There's a great statement or a quote from the Dalai Lama. He talks about the 2 days you never want to live in, and that's yesterday and tomorrow. Want to be right here, right now, today. So when we're trying to eliminate these distractions, what is a good model to follow, right? For me, I love this model. Know what you want, or truly know what you want, know where you want to go, and know what needs to be done to get where you want to go. Like literally, but for you to get into that mindset, literally you have to be present. You have to get into your feet, get where your feet are, get into your breath. And we're going to talk about how to build that relationship with your breath. But truly know what you want, know where you want to go, know what needs to be done to get to where you want to go. It's really, if you can really adopt this model, this will keep you focused. Now, I will ask you this. If you feel overwhelmed, if you feel like there's a lot of stuff pulling at you and you have no control of it, I would want you to write down, and I do this with all my clients, write down everything you can control, like everything you can control. And also write on the other side of the paper, things you can't control. When you can really formalize it and look at all these moving parts, it gives you more peace of mind. It truly does. And then you can really look back, get into the present, and really focus and put a plan on the things that you can control. So I'm going to give you something that I live by, and it's a model called WIN. Now, some of the people that have worked with me in boot camp, and I believe I might have brought this up in our last boot camp coffee, this model is something that I live by. It's called the WIN model, the WIN mindset. If you want to eliminate any noise, you want to eliminate all the stuff that's uncontrollable, then ask yourself in the moment, what's important now? So when you actually do that, when you actually get into your breath, you ask yourself, what's important right now? Truly what you're doing is you're getting back into the present, back focusing on what's important, but you're pushing out all the stuff that's out of your control. So you're gaining power. You're empowering yourself by this statement. Now, if you can get in that moment, if you can truly ask yourself what's important now, whether it's chaotic and there's all this pressure going on, and you act on it. I don't care what the result is, because we can't necessarily control that result for the most part. But if you can act on it in the moment, guess what? You're winning. And the more that we can build awareness, the more that we can get into the present, the more that we can get where our feet are, this statement, this mindset, you can access it a lot easier. Now, I'm going to ask you this, for anybody that wants to really, truly have this mindset be a part of their fabric, their everyday best practice, write it down. Put it on your screensaver, put it on a note that put WIN, or what's important now, put it in your office, put it by your bed, wherever it's visible, put it in your car. Because the more you can see this acronym, the more that you'll train in your brain to actually access it when you need it. Because if we don't see this, I mean, for the most part, every time I teach the win mindset, it sounds cool, it makes sense, but if we're not actually training our brain, we're never going to access it in the moment. So I want us to truly write it down. And when I'm working with athletes, I'm having them write it on their cleats, their headbands. It's funny, you know who I'm working with because my athletes have this acronym. And I wish I was in my home office because I have a bunch of pictures of my athletes that literally write this down so they can see it and be it and live it. All right. So focus. We hear about focus all the time, right? You got to focus. Focus on what? Focus on my performance, my play, my attitude, my energy, my opponents. What do you want me to focus on? So that's why right now when we're trying to eliminate distractions and get back into the present moment, we have to understand that focus is a skill. We have to work on focusing, okay? And we have to work on it one breath at a time, literally one breath at a time. So how do we do this? Well, there's a simple exercise that if you want to build more awareness around your focus and make it more of a skill, then focus on what matters the most in that moment or for that day. Or it could be a theme for the month. What is that thing that you want to focus on, right? Focus on it. So for me, I focus a lot on my energy. My energy is my offering. It is my strength. It's my superpower. And I always want that to be on the forefront. So whenever I lose my energy, whenever I get my thoughts in going in a negative direction, I have to allow myself to refocus back to that one thing. Okay, so if my energy is my focus, it's the most important thing. As soon as I have that awareness that I'm not focusing on my energy, I got to bring it back with my breath. I got to bring it back with, and I have the word in my mind, energy. So I'm literally, not only my breath is bringing me back in the moment, I'm actually seeing that word, I'm visualizing it real quick. So boom, I'm back in my energy. I'm back on focusing what matters the most to me. So when we're under stress and distress and pressure, those three things disconnect us from having the ability to refocus on that one thing that matters. And man, when we're locked in, when we're in zone and we're in flow, man, I believe as performers, corporate athletes, that's the most beautiful place to be when you're actually in the zone and in flow. But when we're actually dealing with stress and distress and pressure, it's okay that we can actually have those things in our life, but we have to understand that they can disconnect us from being in flow if we make that choice. All right. I promise I'll be done with distractions here, but I thought this was really important to bring up to all of you and to share this another model. Okay. And I'm gonna share this and stress that the way we respond to anything, the way we respond to feedback of an interview, failures, mistakes, pressure, the way we respond is everything. So this model, E plus R equals O, is something that you can, for me, it just allows us to understand truly what's going on around us. So this is a good model that we can plug in. And just understand that we don't control the events in our life. We can't control the outcomes for the most part, but we always have the opportunity to make the choice to control our response. It's huge. So when you think about what's going on around you, like what's the event? Is it interviewing? Is it making a big speech? What's the situation that's so pressurized, right? What do you want your response to be? And what do you want the outcome to be, right? So when you think about it, for me, I can just plug in my story that I talked about when I first started my career. I mean, the event was everything was changing and I didn't want to change. And what was my response? It was all about me. I was frustrated. I was confused. But I could go back to it and say, well, what if I had a different response? What would that outcome look like? So when we're distracted, when we're going through tough times, this is a good model for you to look at the stuff that's going on. What's the event? How should I respond? Or what was the response and how can I reframe that response? And what would be the outcome? So E plus R equals O. So this is something that I use a lot with my clients. It's something I see a lot with corporate athletes using this. It just allows us to see the situation a little more clear. Oh, fear. Who doesn't like a little fear in their life? Right? Where I think we're right now in our life with the pandemic, I think we're inundated with fear. And I think right now I think all of us, we're dealing with fear differently. There's different contexts to our fear. But what I want us to do is I want us today have a different relationship with fear, how we can learn to lean into it. Now, again, it's one thing to lean into your fear, okay? But we have to learn how to move through it. And to move through it, we have to understand what that plan is. So it's really funny when I'm looking at this picture, more often than not, with our fear, we're in the effect of our fear. See that shadow that's kind of ruling that man right there. What if this picture looked different, where the man was actually controlling the fear, right? So it gives you a different perspective. A lot of times we're so in the effect of our fear, and fear moves us away from what we want. It moves us away from being confident, and confidence brings us closer to what we want. So some of this stuff might be self-explanatory, but when we're actually in the thick of fear and we're out of control, we put so much stock into being in the effect of fear. And your fear is your fear. There's actually a couple different kinds of fear. There's fear around us every day. We choose if we want to be fearful, fearless, full of fear. But the thing is that when we think about fear in the future, like a speculative fear, what if this happens? That is your fear. That is your illusion. It's future-based thinking. So when you realize that fear is in the future. Now again, it seems like I'm dumbing it down, but truly when you start thinking about fear, not like dangerous fear, where you're life-threatening events, where someone has a gun to your head, or when you have a tiger in the room, which is really not realistic, but when you're faced with a deadly animal, that's true fear. That's really true fear. I'm talking about the fear that most of us deal with that's in the future. And when I think about, like, when I ask this question, this is actually really funny with high schoolers, but when you ask people, show me what fear looks like, it is the funniest thing I've ever seen. Because people, like, they start showing me these faces. I'm like, is that fear? Is that what fear looks like? Fear is what you want it to look like, right? There's been multiple times where I've seen people that are in it looks like to me very fearful, but they act as if it's not fearful at all, because they have a good relationship with fear. So fear is what you want it to be. That's why I underlined, in the agenda, it's your fear. So when you have more of a relationship with fear, right, then you can own it. You can be more confident with it. You can lean into it, and you can move through it. And more often than not, what I see when it comes to that future-based fear is the need to look good versus the fear of looking bad. That paradigm that we live in. We all want to look good, but there's a price to it, because we might actually look bad if we don't do the right things, right? So I'm going to ask you right now just to think about fear. Like, what does it mean to you? Jot down some notes. What does fear mean to you? What does fear look like? Like, what's the identity for you? Now, again, depending on the context of the situation, it might change. It might look different, but what does fear look like, and what does it feel like? Once we understand what it looks like, what it feels like, it's just kind of like our gremlin. We have an identity with it. Now we know what it looks like. Now we actually can play with it, because now there's a face to it and there's emotion to it. So just be with that. Just write that down. And the fear that I'm talking about, the dangerous fear, the fear gene, Stathman, and this is kind of the fear that divides the people who jump out of a plane or who get on the plane, right? So it's more the fear of heights, dangerous fear, the unknown, past fearful experiences. That's that fear that gene exists in our brain. There's actually, I don't know if anyone watched a documentary called Free Solo on a guy named, his name is Alex Holland. And he actually, they scanned his brain and he had no fear in his brain. He didn't have this gene. There's like 1%. That's different. That's crazy. But so fear exists in our brain. We have it in our brain, but we have to have a different relationship, especially when we're going through interviews, especially when going through situations with relationships. We have to understand our fear so we can allow ourselves to lean into it and move through it, right? And I love this. This actually is an acronym, but Zig Ziglar, he says fear has two meanings: forget everything and run, or face everything and rise. And those are actually acronyms for fear. Forget everything and run, or face everything and rise. Or there's another one that I brought up in the last boot camp coffee, is false evidence appearing real. So that evidence is your evidence, and for some reason that fear seems so real, but it's not. So allow yourself, be vulnerable in the moment to move through it. Now, again, we can talk more about this offline, because I don't want to, I know fear can be overwhelming and it can be real for some people, but I'm going to stress that we have to just understand what it looks like and what it feels like so we can move through it. All right, this is the fun part. This is where I truly, as Chrissy would say, I get to share with you my special sauce. This is where we really tap into our mental skills and our mental performance. And again, I talked to you earlier about the power of breath. That is the foundation of mental skills training. And I will add on to it, so is our energy, understanding our energy and how to enhance our energy in the moment. But the power of breath will truly get us in the present moment. The more that we're more present, we can play present. We can play a bigger game with our career, with our relationships, even with our interview process. We can just play a bigger game if we can access our breath. So before I get into some exercises, so we're going to be breathing this morning. I love this breathing commandment because it makes it real. It makes us understand during adversity how important our breath is. So the breathing commandment, and I actually have anybody that works with me that's going to know this or recite it, because I want them to actually believe in this commandment. And the breathing commandment reads, I will always remember that breathing is a skill that keeps the mind calm and the body strong during adversity. So this is something that you can tell yourself in the moment as you're actually connecting with your breath. I will always remember that breathing is a skill that keeps the mind calm and the body strong during adversity. I just love it. I think that just encapsulates the whole reason why we breathe and the power of breath. Okay, so let's start off the basics with breathing. I'm going to ask all of you moving forward, if you don't have a relationship with your breath or you don't have an intentional breath practice in place, I'm going to ask you to start really igniting this process, getting really connected with your breath. I'm going to ask you to start practicing conscious deep breathing 3 to 5 times a day. If you can do up to 7 or 10, it's awesome. Because trust me, when you have a relationship with your breath, when you truly need it in an interview, when you truly need it to have a hard conversation or to deal with any kind of adversity, your breath is going to position you in the best position for that moment. So when do you practice this deep breath, right? For me, what I've seen with my clients, what I've seen with myself, is when I'm in the shower, when I just woke up, when I'm watching or looking at social media, reading a book, when I'm drinking my coffee, when I'm walking from meeting to meeting, when I'm actually walking from one room to a next, which they call that transitional breathing. There's so many moments where we can drop into our breath. So a deep breath, typically, they call it a 10-second breath. It's really 11 seconds because you're inhaling for 4, you hold for 1 second, and you exhale for 6. That is one deep conscious breath. Now, if you can do that 2 or 3 times and then let it go. And when I mean this, when you get into your breath, I want you to start pushing out everything: bills, interviewing, jobs, everything, and get into your breath for 2 or 3 deep breaths for 30 seconds or so, and then let go of it. Like, move on with your life. Just get into your breath, shut everything out, get really in the present, into control, and then let go of it. And then revisit that breath in the next hour, 2 hours, or in the next 30 minutes. But constantly build that relationship. Build that relationship with that breath, because there's going to be a moment when you need it, and it's going to be right there. It's going to be your saving grace. Not only is it saved me in my professional life, personal life, it is the power, I believe, in being present and being the best performer and the best version of yourself. Okay? So conscious breathing. So box breathing. Before we get into this, what I want us to do is I want you to draw. So I want you to tap into your inner artist, if you will. So what I want you to do is take your pen, and I want you to draw a box. But what I want you to do is I want you to start at the very bottom left corner, and I want you to draw upward, and then finish the box. Then I want you to go to the right. I want you to go down, and then to the left. I want you to complete a box, but you're going to start at the very bottom left corner and go up. Okay. So the reason why I want you to do that, because I want to create flow on how you're going to do this box breathing. Okay. So in a second, I'm going to walk you through this, but what we're going to do is we're going to inhale. As we inhale, we're starting from in our mind, we're going up on the left-hand side. And then we exhale, we move to the right. And then when we inhale, we go down, and then we exhale to the left. So you're creating a box, but you're building that box with your breath. People like this. My clients like this because it's a visual and it allows them to stay on track. They see it visually. So let's try it on. Let's try some box breathing. So let's do 3 of these. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to count to 3. I'm going to walk you through it. You can go as fast as you want or as slow as you want. Okay? So on the count of 3, we're going to start with the inhale up. 1, 2, 3. Inhale up. Exhale to the right. Inhale down. Exhale to the left. Inhale up. Exhale to the right. Inhale down. Exhale to the left. I'll give you a little break here so we don't hyperventilate and get lightheaded here. Let's do one more time. One more breath here.
Okay, question before you do, Grant. There's so someone asked, when you do that conscious breathing and you're inhaling and exhaling intently, do you actually hear your breathing sound?
If you can, yeah. If you
Okay.
can really, it's about accessing your senses. The more you can access your senses, because right now all of us are accessing our senses, but we have primaries. So usually our primaries are vision and our feel, being kinesthetic. So when we're actually breathing, what I want us to do is when we're making that conscious breath, and this is a great question, and thanks for bringing it up. I want us to, if we can hear and feel the air come through our nose. So we push out everything in our lives to hear and feel the air come through our nose, and then we hear and feel the air coming off our lips. We can do that for 2 or 3 breaths for 20 to 30 seconds. We're being very intentional. We're very present. We're right here, right now. So if you can hear and feel in and out, that's awesome. That's great work. All right, so let's do one more box breath, and then we'll get into intentional breathing. All right, on 3, we're gonna work ourselves up and inhale up on the left-hand side. 1, 2, 3. Inhale up. Exhale to the right. Inhale down. Exhale to the left. And there it is. That's box breathing. there are, as you get more involved with your relationship with the breath, there's hundreds of ways of doing all different kinds of breath, ratio breathing, circle breathing. There's just tons of different ways to breathe. All I'm going to ask you is find what's comfortable for you. You don't have to do inhale for 4, exhale for 6 on the conscious deep breathing. You don't have to do the box breathing. The main thing is just getting into your breath, really noticing and being present. If you can do that and you're doing that every day, that's the goal. That's the goal. Now, intentional breathing, I love intentional breathing because when we think about mindset, what is a mindset? For me, intention or intentionality equals mindset. The more that we're actually being intentional about what we want to do in that moment or throughout that day, we're creating a mindset. So how do we create that mindset? How do we initiate that mindset and put a name to it? Is to really understand what our intention is for the day. So what I do in the morning is that I look at my day, I look at what's on my calendar, and I got to realize in that moment, what are my intentions? So I figure out 1 to 2 or 3 things that I want to be intentional about. Real quick, I get to associate a picture of what does those intentions look like? What does it look like to me? And what does it feel like? So I'm tapping into the emotional side of it. The more we can put an image and an identity to this intention, as soon as we do that, like today, I want to share my energy, and I want to be calm, and I want to be a leader. Okay, what does that look like? What does that feel like to me? Okay, once I have that picture, then I'm going to spend 1 minute to 3 minutes. Again, it can be longer, it can be shorter, and I'm going to start connecting my intention with my breath. And I'm really starting to visualize what it looks like and what it feels like. So I'm initiating it and activating that intention. Now, what happens? Now, remember, we get out of focus. Within 6 seconds. So throughout the day, we're so bombarded with these distractions. So at lunchtime, I want us to revisit our intention with our breath. Okay, what does it look like? What does it feel like? Just drop in for 1 minute to 3 minutes. And then at the end of the day, I want us to reflect on our intention. How intentional were we? So the more that we can do that, the more a relationship, not only with our breath, but the intentionality. The more that we're more purposeful, the more that we're connected to doing what we want to do and what it looks like, what it feels like, we are going to be more present. We're going to play present and play a big game. Okay, I hope that was helpful. I love this stuff. I can go on hours when it comes to breath. And I want to share this lock-in process with you, which I know Christy loves, and she wants me to make this a tagline. But when you truly get into your breath, this happens really quick. But when you have your breath, you have your mind. And then when you have your mind, you have your body. And that's what we want. We want that whole process to happen real quick. But the only way we can get into that process and have it click and get locked in is we have a relationship with our breath. All right, visualization. So the reason why I want to bring up this technique, this is probably, from my perspective, working with athletes, working with corporate athletes, it's probably the hardest strategy, just because some people have a hard time actually controlling an image in their mind. But the more that they do it, the more they're training their brain to see them doing whatever they want to do in real time. They're building confidence when they do this. They're building motivation, and they're building trust within their body. So more often than not, if you want success in life, you need to see it, you need to feel it, you need to do it. And by doing that, visualization helps you. So when we are feeling out of control and we get a plan in place, we get into our breath and we know exactly what we want to do to overcome adversity or to get back in control, I want us to actually know that we can visualize what we want to do next. So there's a strategy that I teach called MVP, and I can walk you through it real quick. This could be, again, it could be 3 minutes, could be 5 minutes. I'll do this fairly quick due to time. But MVP, doing your daily MVPs, will allow you to connect with yourself, your mind, body, and soul. It will allow you if you do it every day. So it stands for meditation, visualization, and powerful self-talk. Okay, meditation, visualization, and powerful self-talk. So who doesn't want to be their most valuable player? Well, let's do our daily MVP so we can actually achieve that. So let's actually let me walk you through an MVP. And again, I'll do it fairly quick, about a minute and a half or so. But what I want us to do is I want us to get into a meditative state. I want us to visualize what we want to visualize. So right now, as I'm speaking, what do you want your day to be? What do you want your weekend to look like? Visualize that. Visualize it perfect. This is the only thing I'm going to ask you at all to be perfect at, is to visualize, because you're training your brain to see something the way you want to do it in real time. So be perfect at your image and what you want, and then throw in some words. I'm gonna throw in some words for you to connect with, just to give you an idea how to do this. So let's do a quick MVP and get you locked in real quick, okay? So on the count of 3, I'm just gonna, again, feel free to close your eyes, just get right in this moment, push everything out, get in complete control, and we'll move through this strategy real quick. Okay, on the count of 3, we'll get into it. 1, 2, 3. Take a deep breath. Exhale. And just feel your breath. Be with your breath and be right now. You're most alive right now in this moment because you're in your breath. Just be right here. Just keep a nice rhythm with your breath. Feel your face. Just kind of feel your face right now. Be completely relaxed. Feel your stomach. Just move that energy down to your stomach. And then move that energy down to your feet. Just lock in your energy, lock in your thoughts. Be right now. Now I want you to start visualizing what you want to do, visualizing an interview, visualizing success, visualizing what you want to achieve today, this weekend, this year. Start visualizing what you want to do. And crystallize that image. What does it look like? What does it feel like? Control that image. Bring color to that image. And feel it. Tap into the joyous emotion, confident emotion. Really see that picture, be with it, control it, perfect it. As you own this picture, as you own this goal, you're truly a champion. You are truly alive right now. You are free to fail. You are free to succeed. You are free to be your most confident self. You are free to be your own MVP. You are free to create anything that's possible. Just be with your breath. Focus on your breath. Right, just take one deep breath in. Exhale out. Just come back to the present moment when you feel comfortable. All right. Very good. Good work. For the ones that tried it, good work. This is something that it's just the more you do it, the more comfortable you're more confident, and you're gonna get that picture more controlled, and you're gonna start associating with that picture a lot faster. So it's just one of those things that's easy to do and easy not to do, but we need to be dedicated to this practice. All right, ageism. This is, again, as I said, this is real. But this is where we truly adopt and bring in what we can't control. Can we control ageism? Can we control that we get older every day? Obviously, there's things that we can do to slow that down, and there's things that we can do, treatments to look younger. But I think truly, if we want to learn how to like be with ageism and move with it, right? Because we can't control what people think, we can't control what people say, but you know what we can control? We have 100% control of what we do, what we think, what we feel. So for me, I think the way that we deal with ageism, I'm 46 years old. I've already dealt with ageism with a couple opportunities. So it's, you know, obviously there's some reports and research that typically ageism is experienced from 50 years on, but it's a real thing. But I think what we need to do to learn and move with it is really to focus on our energy. Now, recently, and I'll bring this up, but in boot camp, there was an incredible, awesome leader, awesome executive, and he brought up ageism. He brought up that it was something that he experienced, and it was something that he feared a little bit. But I'll tell you what, after he allowed himself to be vulnerable throughout the boot camp, his energy was awesome. He was a comedic. His humor was very tastefully. He knew like how to like make everyone laugh. And to be honest with you, I didn't see an age. I saw the energy. And more often than not, people will feel and see your energy before you even open up your mouth. So it's really important that we actually understand what our energy is, how we can actually enhance it in the moment. There's, you know, again, breath work, self-talk. If we have moments to listen to music, that changes our energy. So, and I think for us, we have to really, truly understand that when ageism happens, when we experience it, that we have an opportunity and a choice to reframe it. So like we've done with Kimberly and what we've done in boot camp, how do we take a negative belief system or something negative and turn it into a powerful assumption? How do we change that? Because again, we can't control ageism, but we can control ourselves. We control the way we move through it, and we can control our energy. I think it's really interesting that the quote I have here is that it was found that 64% of older workers say that they have either seen or personally experienced ageism. So it's real. So we can actually fight it, we can resist it, or we can actually let it in and actually be with it with better energy, right? And a better way to reframe these experiences in the moment. All right, victory goes to the vulnerable. I love this. I actually got this from my mentor, Grant Betchart, who actually coined the phrase victory goes to the vulnerable. I'm sure most of you know who Brene Brown is, and she's, to me, is just a rock star when it comes to vulnerability. But when you actually want to get into control, whatever the situation is, it can be scary. Trust me, I've been there. It can be scary. But if we can allow ourselves to be vulnerable, a lot of beautiful things happen. And from research, it shows that when you're vulnerable, you're courageous. And when you're courageous, you become brave. Man, who doesn't want to be brave? Who doesn't want to be courageous? All because of what we deemed years ago in society that vulnerability was weak. And now that we're understanding that vulnerability equals being courageous and it equals being brave. It's beautiful. And what do you gain in the moment when you actually become vulnerable? Power. You get your power back, your confidence, your control, which we're talking about, trust. You're increasing your awareness, emotional intelligence. You're embracing fear and failures. You're increasing success. And by what you gain, all these things allows you to reflect on the victories, allows you to reflect on how courageous and brave you are. It's a beautiful place to be. And you get to earn the admission into the arena. And I'm not going to go into that statement because I'm going to let Brene do that. I'm going to bring up a video of Brene here that talks about this. And I think you will love it and enjoy it. All right, if I can bring it up, be with 1 second. All right, 1 second here. Here we go.
So I get out my laptop and I do a search for who was president in the United States during the Downton Abbey era. Have you ever done that? Like you're numbing with TV or a movie, and so when it's over, you just like stay in that space by like learning more about the actors and what's going on. I've been doing this long enough to know this is like, you're laughing with me, not at me. So I put it in, and Theodore Roosevelt comes up, and a quote comes up. And I read it, and this is what it says. It's a quote from a speech that he gave in the early 1900s at the Sorbonne, and a lot of people call it the Man in the Arena speech. And this is the passage that changes my life. It's not the critic who counts. It's not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done it better. The credit belongs to the person who's actually in the arena, whose face is marred with blood and sweat and dust, who at the best, in the end, knows the triumph of high achievement, and who at worst, if he fails daring greatly. So the moment that I read that, I closed my laptop, and this is what shifted in me. 3 huge things. First, I spent the last 12 years studying vulnerability, and that quote was everything I know about vulnerability. It is not about winning, it's not about losing, it's about showing up and being seen. The second thing, this is who I want to be. I want to create. I want to make things that didn't exist before I touched them. I want to show up and be seen in my work and in my life. And if you're going to show up and be seen, there is only one guarantee, and that is you will get your ass kicked. That is a guarantee. That's the only certainty you have. If you're going to go in the arena and spend any time in there whatsoever, especially if you've committed to creating in your life, you will get your ass kicked. So you have to decide at that moment, I think for all of us, if courage is a value that we hold, this is a consequence. You can't avoid it. The third thing, which really set me free, and I think Steve, my husband, would argue has made me somewhat dangerous, is kind of a new philosophy about criticism, which is this. If you're not in the arena, also getting your ass kicked, I'm not interested in your feedback. If you have constructive information, feedback to give me, I want it. And I'm an academic, I'm hardwired for wrestling around with stuff like that. If you say, hey, you forgot all this literature, hey, you should have done this, or terrible sentence construction over here, like, let's go, let's do it. I love that. But if you're in the cheap seats, not putting yourself on the line and just talking about how I could do it better, I'm in no way interested in your feedback.
All right. How was that? Pretty cool. You know, I think every time that I listen to that, being vulnerable and knowing that we're going to get our ass kicked, if we know that we're going to get our ass kicked because we're stepping in the arena, I want you to do that present. I want you to be fully present with your breath. And I want you to understand that the more present we are, if we're going to get our ass kicked by stepping in the arena, the more present we are, the more control we have to react and deal with getting our ass kicked. And we're going to have a lot of people out of our control. They're going to be sitting in the cheap seats, making remarks, but we make a choice. We can't control them at all. We control 100% of us. We control being in that arena and making sure that understanding what we can control, what we can't. And to me, it's when you can do that, man, you are your most empowered self. You are confident, even when you fail. So I hope that, I know I threw a lot at you. I knew I threw a lot of exercises. Might have been comfortable, but I want us to understand that today was all about how do we actually look at things that feel or we know that we're out of control, and how do we get back into our most confident self and controlled self. So hope this was beneficial. Please reach out.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And there's some questions. Okay, and then I'm going to pitch this for you because I know you won't. So everyone on the call, Grant has coached many boot campers, and I can't even tell you how the feedback that I've gotten is that he gets them to see beyond what what some of the limitations are, and we've heard about ageism, and right now I think it's increasing. So if you're really struggling with that, there is kind of the mental mindset to get you through that. And Grant, what I really loved what you said about lean into it and move through it. And that's something that, I don't know, it gives me something to, kind of hold on to, during this time. There's so much to be, that we can be fearful of. And, but your whole thought about leaning into it so that we can move through it gives me another strategy to employ. So thank you for that. Okay, so there's a couple of questions, and I think one is the correlation between the corporate athlete and the sports athlete. And it's like, the question is, why do you focus on energy? What are other words or mindsets that corporate athletes can choose?
To be honest with you, it's a good question. I truly don't see the difference between an athlete and a corporate athlete, and this is the reason why. So when you're performing any kind of role, so whether if you're a quarterback, an outfielder, a swimmer, what you're actually to perform at your best, you're actually controlling your thoughts and your emotions. If you can align those depending on what's coming at you, you're positioning yourself to provide a great performance. Now, corporate athlete has to deal with the same stuff, your thoughts and your emotions. The only thing that's different from an athlete and a corporate athlete is the environment. And can we control the environment? An athlete or a corporate, we can't. So I don't see that there's not a huge difference. We're both trying to deal with our thoughts and our emotions and aligning them. And I think for me, energy is energy. Energy actually is the reason why we perform anything. Our breath, our thoughts, our emotions, it all stems from energy. So I think for me, I wouldn't change it. I would really embrace the fact that our energy, even our nervousness, anxiety, that is created by energy. And we can actually, in the moment, control that energy, especially we can use that energy with our performance if we control it right and do the right things. So. Okay.
And then some of the things that I think about with like the controlling the mindset, and I've had a couple of comments sent to me. And so it's like when you look at like ageism and all of these things that we're piling on ourselves to say that, okay, this is the reason I'm not moving forward. Networking is harder. My job search is stalled. And what, can you give some maybe thoughts or suggestions for how to really, kind of lean into that and move through it? Because again, it's real. It's like, okay, ageism is real. We know that, but we also know that, and as you said, it's like if we show up with more energy and that's not what we hold on to, we're seen differently. And, but the job search is stalled. It's like, hey, I had 5 potential offers and they all dried up. So, what are some things that we can think about with that?
So for me in that situation, I think the 2 biggest things, and again, energy, and I'll share a little bit how we can actually increase our energy and actually know where our energy's at. But it's also the way we talk to ourselves. Our internal dialogue, if you want to get back into, if you want to reframe, you want to get back to your most confident self, you have to talk to yourself in a very positive way. You have to. And there's a lot of research on if you truly want to get back into a confident mindset, it's the way that you talk to yourself, not listen. And that's what happens when a lot of stuff, ageism is coming at us, a lot of fear is coming, we put ourselves in the effect of it and we listen to it. And I want to empower all of you that you have the choice to talk to it, regardless if you have 5 opportunities that dried up, or you've been out of a job for a year to 2 years, you can actually listen to how bad you are, or listen about all the things why they didn't choose you. But at the end of the day, you can't control that. You can control your energy. You can control the way you talk to yourself. Now, there's a word that I do want to throw out, is the word next. It's very important. If you don't focus on what's next, then you're focusing on something that just happened that's in the past. So these 5 opportunities are dried up. Guess what? You're moving forward life, and they're moving past you because they're in the past and you have no control. The only thing you can do is get the lesson from it. What do you think I could have done better? And then you move on. What's next? To me, I call it next place speed. The more that I can actually get the lesson in the moment and go to the next thing and get prepared for what's coming at me, I'm in control. So I think with energy as well, I'll do this real quick, but I literally evaluate my energy on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being low, 5 being high. So when I'm 5, I'm rocking and I'm living life and I'm in flow and I'm breakdancing, I'm a 5. When I'm 4, I'm just feeling really good. Maybe had a couple good conversations. 3, I'm stable. I'm just normal. 2, I'm feeling funky. Maybe I'm a little sick, or maybe someone said something and it kind of ruined most of my day. And 1 is I don't even want to be around anyone. My energy is really, really negative. So when we understand we're going into networking, we're going to an interview, check our energy. Where am I at? Am I a 3, a 4, a 5, a 1? And then when you realize what the energy you do have, focus on what you do have, and then try to do something to enhance it 1 level. Listen to music, do some mantra, do some affirmations. Talk to somebody that has incredible energy that's going to lift you up the next level. So again, going back to ageism, is something we can't control, but we can control our thoughts, our inner dialogue, and our energy.
Awesome. There's another question about MVPs. What if you have too many things pop in your head? How do you prioritize the stuff that you want to get done so it can actually happen?
Right. That's a great question. Typically when I'm working with, if I was going to work one-on-one, I would make sure before we did an MVP, and I would ask all of you, before you do an MVP, really figure out what it is that you want to visualize, that one thing. When you start let's say success. Well, success can mean a lot of different things, and it can look like a lot of different things. Pick one thing that you really want to focus on that is going to allow you to be successful. Just make sure that, because what I want you to do is control that image the best you can. So if you have 2 or 3, 5 competing things, it might be hard for you to actually control that image. So pick one thing and then really focus on it. If there's other things that you want to focus on, you want to visualize, then finish that MVP and then come back to it and then focus on something else that's different. But try to focus on one thing at a time.
I love that. You know, there's one comment that someone made, and I want to repeat it so everyone hears it, is reframing that you're meeting people to plant seeds in a garden. And that helps. In a time frame where hiring is less, it helps manage expectations. You never know when the flower is going to bloom. And I totally agree with that. And, you know, we've built our whole company on this. And so, yes, I completely agree with that. And then somebody else, so Rick Schultz said, I'm a subscriber to Grant's 90% Mental podcast and highly recommended. You know, and that is the one thing that has surprised the heck out of me, Grant, is that when listening to your podcasts and that whole 90% Mental podcast and translating that into me and my, you know, being an entrepreneur and growing the company and being a leader, that really has been an awesome podcast. So I do encourage people to listen to that podcast. You're interviewing some great people. Love the questions and love the learning. So yes, Rick, I agree. It's a podcast to listen to. So we are out of time. Grant, thank you for giving of yourself and for sharing your secret sauce with us. And I always hold on to, you know, the whole thing, when you have your breath, you have your mind, and when you have your mind, you have your body. And I'm telling you, that is so true, especially when our minds can go nuts like this.
Definitely.
All right, everyone. Thank you, thank you, thank you for joining us.
Really appreciate
Enjoy the wonderful weekend, and we'll see you next time. And thank you so much, Grant. Enjoy.
All righty. Have a good
Bye.
weekend.
Be safe, everyone.